So there we have it. The World Cup warm-ups are done and dusted. They are over. It finishes with France putting in a resounding victory over the Wallabies in Paris. And next stop is 8th of September, France against the All Blacks to kick off the World Cup. So looking back at the France-Wallabies game in this video, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you made of it, what you make of both of these two sides heading into the Rugby World Cup in very, very different places, obviously. But put your comment in the comment section. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Let's get into it. So let's start with the home side. Let's start with the French. This was a really good performance. You can't take anything away from them. There are obviously question marks over the Wallabies at the moment, but even so, the way in which France went about getting the result in this game, I actually think is pretty much a blueprint for, in an ideal world, how France would always go about getting their victories, which is building a score, trying to put pressure on in the first half and then making the most of the opportunities they're given in terms of a counter-attack as the game opens up in the second half. Because that is one of the parts of this French team, that they build a score more than other nations. And that might change at the World Cup. Once you get into tournament rugby and knockout rugby, I think we will see more nations go for the three. But even in this game here, even when France were leading in the first half, they were quite happy with the 9 penalties that Australia coughed up in the first half. Those that were kickable, they were quite happy to have Thomas Ramos kick at post, and he knocked pretty much all of them over. And they built the score. And then in the second half, we saw them build upon that one try they scored in the first half. Penaud got a couple. Villiere scored. They were able to show some of the counter-attacking, attacking ability that they do. But I do think this French side have a real clear identity, because Australia had more of the ball in the first half. They had more of the territory. They made more metres with ball in hand. France are quite happy to kick the ball away when they have it somewhere in an area of the field that they don't want to play it. But when they do then get the opportunities, that's when they're really able to make the most of it. And we saw that once more here. In terms of players, I feel like a lot of the time I end up focusing on the backs too much, but I thought they were brilliant. Thomas Ramos was outstanding, and when he came in and kind of took the shirt of Melvin Jaminet, I thought Jaminet was excellent, because he's a really great counter-attacking fullback, can kick his goals. Ramos was brilliant today. His 50-22, which set up one of the tries, was absolutely excellent. His goal kicking was very, very good. He is just a top quality operator. We saw what Penaud can do. We already know the try scoring ability of Damian Penaud. That was on display again once he started getting opportunities in the second half. And then Mathieu Jalibert as well, with Romain Ntamack out. The burden of responsibility falls on Mathieu Jalibert, and he did a great job here. You knew he would. He's such a quality option to have to come in for Ntamack, but even so, he was very, very good. And it is a French team that has been built to have a run at this World Cup, this home World Cup, and that's kind of the question mark that I'm left pondering after this game. Can France win the World Cup? Now, obviously, yes, they can. Will they is probably a different discussion. And actually, in another video on the channel, I'm going to do a chat about who are now Rugby World Cup favourites after all of the World Cup warm-ups, all of the Summer Nations series. I've done 2 videos previously on the channel which have always done pretty well. One after the Six Nations, one after the Rugby Championship, and I am going to do another one after the end of all these warm-up games, because I think it is such a tough question to answer. So do drop a comment down below on that. I'll have a look at them ahead of doing that video, which I'll probably release tomorrow. As for France, they'll always back themselves at home. Their home record is excellent, just the 1 defeat at home over the last 4 years, I believe it is. Scotland in the Six Nations in 2021. In COVID, when there was no one there, is the only time they've lost at home. So they'll feel confident going into a home World Cup, but I do think there will be tougher challenges to come, particularly once it gets nervy, it gets to the knockout stages, the pressure is on them. It can do funny things to teams. But in terms of a final performance, I don't think there were any injuries here. A number of their players look very, very good indeed. So they'll be pretty happy with where they are. Let's get on to Australia. I mean, they're in a similar boat, aren't they, to England and to Wales, in that they're a side that aren't playing well, aren't picking up results. Where are they heading? Eddie Jones has come in and he's played 5 games. He's lost 5 matches. I suppose you should caveat that with those games are what? Against South Africa, Argentina, 2 against New Zealand, and then 1 against France. It isn't the easiest fixture list for them, but even so, 5 games, 5 defeats is far from ideal. The scoreline today was, I don't think it was flattering to France. I think it was a reflection of France's dominance in the game. There was a few nice tries late on from Australia, but is there enough for them to build upon? Well, the positives in this game, as far as I can see it, they're scrum number 1. Can they get Taniela Tupou up to a level of fitness where he can give them 60 minutes plus in those key World Cup games? I think he's absolutely essential for their front row, because I think the drop-off from him to the next guy is fairly stark. So I think Tupu's fitness is absolutely key, and if they can build upon that scrum, then you never know. A team with a dominant scrum we see able to do a whole lot of things, but the problem outside of that is the set piece. I mean, the line out wasn't ideal today. They couldn't really get their driving maul going forward. And then it was discipline and accuracy. And there were a number of handling errors. There was a lot of discipline, which they will look back on. And the coaches will be tearing their hair out just because it shouldn't happen. It gave France possession. It gave France field position. And France will hurt you if you give them those two things. And then Carter Gordon as well. He's a young guy, I know, as a fly half. I think he's got a really exciting future ahead of him, but you have to be more accurate from the tee if you are to win those games that are the arm wrestles. Not this game today. France won easily, whether he missed those kicks or not, but those tense, tough games, that is where you need to have a goal kicker who is incredibly reliable, like the French do with Thomas Ramos. So is there enough in this game for Australia to build upon? I've no doubt Eddie Jones will say there is. They're building for the World Cup. They're still capable of winning the World Cup, even though no one else believes that. There were better things, and actually one of them is potentially, if they are going to play Suliasi Vunivalu, and I know that in itself is a controversial topic among some Wallabies fans who feels like he has been fast-tracked in from rugby league, that he hasn't necessarily deserved his opportunity. But if they are going to play him, then I think he gives them an added dimension in the air, as we often see with a lot of rugby league players. They have a different skill set to players that have just been playing in union, and his try was a really good example of that. And I think what he can do in that area of the pitch could just give them some sort of attacking weapon that is able to hurt sides, particularly looking at their group, Fiji, Wales, teams that they will back themselves to be able to get a result against. Then they can get out the group. Their quarter-final probably isn't going to be too difficult. If they top the group, it might be England. Eddie Jones will back himself to coach this Wallabies team to beat England. So, again, they're like those other sides I mentioned who aren't playing well but don't have to do too much to progress at a World Cup. At this moment in time, it's still pretty tough watching, no doubt, for Wallabies fans, but maybe they're starting to slightly go in the right direction. I think ultimately this World Cup isn't for them, is it? It's more about building towards their home World Cup in 4 years' time. But Eddie Jones and co, no doubt, will say that there is lots for them to be positive about, and he's very pleased with his young charges. Make sure you drop a comment down below. Let me know what you made of it. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. And don't forget, who are World Cup favourites? We've seen all the teams play now. Everyone's had a good amount of minutes in their legs. Who are favourites for the World Cup in your opinion? Let me know. All right? I'll see you in the next one.